Juice by Sarah. Juice by Sarah. Sarah Goldfarb. She's here to be on TV. Juice by Sarah. Juice by Sarah. Go. I know you're hungry. I know you're upset. I'm Joe Riccio, and welcome to Food Coma, my 70s kitchen, from my actual 70s kitchen. Today we're going to actually explore the cuisine of Brazil, specifically Bahia, which is a large state where the city of Salvador is located. Actually, probably the most heavily influenced by African cuisine of all of the, at least so I'm told, of any of the cities in Brazil. So today we're going to make a beef stew that has three kinds of meat. You have dried beef, carne seca, beef chuck, so kind of like chunks of fattier beef needs to be braised for a long time, and then smoky sausage. Now, there are a lot of specific kind of specialty ingredients that a lot of times I could find in my local bodega. This time, however, I had to do a lot of improvising. And rather than wrap myself in the warm safety blanket of Amazon and order the ingredients, I decided to actually see what would be best that's more accessible in your everyday, what would be the best substitutes for traditional Brazilian ingredients. So the first thing to know about specifically Bahian food is they use a lot of what's called dende oil, which is a red palm oil. They use so much of it that literally their cuisine sometimes is referred to as oil food. It is really, really, as you can see, very vibrantly colored. Has a really unique aroma to it. I can't really explain what it smells like, but I mean, you can see why it's a distinct flavor. This is something that if you're going to try to recreate Brazilian food, you definitely want to get this, whether it's the Brazilian version or an African version. If you can find either, you're good to go. First things first. So we're going to start with our beef chuck here, the stew meat, which you can tell is all pretty from being salted, so all the moisture starts to kind of leach out of it. And you want to just cook this until it's essentially browned. I have to say it's one of the prettier oils. I wish I could, I just can't put my finger on what the aroma of it is. It's the kind of thing that I'm sure if you've spent a lot of time in Brazil, it's a very unique aroma that would probably transport you right back there. One of the ingredients that this stew calls for is carne seca, which is basically, it's dried beef. It's basically beef jerky, but it's just done in a little bit different style. It's like, and actually what I went and did is I found some quality jerky that was smoked, thicker cut, bigger pieces, and I essentially treated it the exact same as the carne seca, and it came out great. You do not want to use like Slim Jims for this, because Slim Jims, they'll melt. If you ever put them in a microwave, they melt. That's really interesting, isn't it? What are they made of? How can you snap into it if it's just going to melt in the microwave? Don't use Slim Jims, and this is the takeaway. All right. So these are still getting some color on them here, guy. Getting some very pretty color, very red color. One thing about cuisine from this part of the world, generally spicy as so at the end you'll see the salsa that we add as garnish I'll get into later. I'll just tell you that normally they use a chili called malagueta. I couldn't find that here, so I subbed in Thai chilies, Thai bird chilies. So they look pretty much identical. They're screaming hot, just like the other ones are. I used 20 of them in the salsa that I made, but it's going on a stew, so. I'm already peppered with dende oil here. You see little splatters over that, which is perfect. I think it looks good. I'm going to wear this on every show. It's just more because I feel like dende oil, more than any other cooking oil, is going to be the least likely to come out at the dry cleaner. So pretty much just buy 20 of the same shirt. That's what I do. It's starting to get a little color. Let's give them a flippy flip. Give them a flippy flip. And that, oh yeah. I just feel the orange going everywhere. This is a pie plate that I thought was a great idea at 2 in the morning to order the ultramarine color from Le Creuset. I've baked one pie in my life, and that hasn't changed since I got this. I'm like, well, if I get the pan, maybe I'll bake pie, or maybe I'll just put beef that's been cooked in the thing. You know, I use chuck for this. Any kind of beef that essentially benefits from a long time cooking in order to be edible. That's, oh, that one. It's going to swing around a little there. Not going to lie. There's part of me that just wants to dump the entire thing of meat into the pot because sometimes doing things in more than one batch can be infuriating when you're just trying to get things underway because you know you have several hours of cooking to go. And you're like, does it really matter that much to brown the meat? I'm only doing it because I'm supposed to. I guess the one benefit is that when I take all the meat out and I put all the vegetables and whatnot in, that they'll get the fond from the bottom of the pan. So I guess you're going to get some beef flavor. Yep. Okay. All right. Move that. Turn that down. This oil is extremely hot. All right. So now we're going to add some onions and peppers. This is how we're going to get a lot of that beef fond scraped up because that's just flavor. Sometimes I add the garlic and ginger first, but in this case I thought the oil got really hot and I didn't want to burn it. My OCD is causing me to wipe all that red oil up. Cook this for probably about 8 minutes, something like that, till everything is all softened up. Okay, I'm going to add the ginger and garlic, which I've minced up, to this because it's no longer quite as nuclear as it was. That smells amazing. That smell, the ginger with the dendo oil, that's a good combination. We like that. Next, we have some tomato puree going in, along with some cilantro and mince chopped up. I like how different the taste of cooked cilantro is versus raw. I kind of like it. I think I kind of prefer it. So we're going to cook that for just a minute. We're going to add back in our beef chuck. I drained off the oil that had accumulated with the beef because I felt like we have plenty of oil in the pot here. So the beef chuck. Now comes the dried beef. So essentially the jerky that I reconstituted. You want to soak it for about 6 hours, and generally every hour you change the water. All right, and then we got about a quart of chicken broth going in. And we're going to bring this to a boil now. So you can see right now, it's hard to kind of imagine what this is going to be at the end because this is a whole lot of inedible stuff that's going to turn to magic over 3 hours. So as this comes to a boil, what's going to happen is we're going to simmer what's in the pot right now for roughly an hour, covered on low or medium low. Then we're going to add the smoked sausage. So in Brazil, they use a style of sausage called calabresa, which is actually a style, I believe, that takes influence from Calabria, an Italian style sausage. So it's smoky, it's spicy. I wasn't able to find it, so I subbed in linguiça. You figure, the Portuguese, Brazilian influence there. Made sense to do that. So I'm using linguiça, but I made sure I got one from a local smokehouse that's got that aggressive smoke to it. So hopefully it's as close to the Brazilian version as you can get. This is one of those stews that's, it's going to be spicy. It's going to have the acid from a lot of the lime juice and the nice texture from the okra. You're going to get smoke from all the meat. This meat will be really soft and kind of falling apart. Then at the very end, what we actually do, we garnish it with the spicy salsa, which I'll show you in a little bit, with the Thai chilies. And then also toasted mandioca flour, which is basically, it's cassava flour. So you toast that in a little bit of I'm gonna toast it in a little bit of butter, and then I'm gonna sprinkle it on top, and that kind of thickens things up and adds a nice extra flavor to it. But we're gonna get to all that in several hours. So come to a boil. Chris, the green light's not on. I was a little apprehensive about using jerky for the carne seca, but in the long run, with all the research I did, basically, I mean, this is just, it's a very meaty jerky that's delicious on its own. I'm actually not really a big jerky guy, but I figured this would actually be you want something that's thick and meaty that you can actually imagine being reconstituted and braised and being delicious. So this is what I went with. But if you have a lot of time in advance, if you live in a large city, and you're fortunate enough, like New York, Boston, to have great Brazilian markets, you're all set. All this stuff is going to be easy to find. You're going to have amazing sausage. You're going to have the right carne seca, the perfect to use. And you're going to be on easy street with a pound of pure. You got to take it, off it, get another pound of pure, flip it, be on easy street. Pound of pure. That's all you do. There's always room for a Requiem for a Dream reference in anything I do, I find.
There's just a lot of liquid to
That's fine. This is the glamour part that they don't tell you about. The glamour of watching pots waiting for them to boil. That's why I signed on for this personally. Because I'm trapped in a prison in my own kitchen, so I can't go do something else while this does its own thing. So I have to just sit here and stare at it. It stopped splattering hot oil at me, so that's fun. All right, so this is coming up to a boil. Hooray. So phase one is complete. We're going to cover this guy up, let it simmer on about medium-low for about an hour, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have a sausage party. So here we go. Okay, so it has been an hour on our beef stew here. So this is the beef and the dry beef have been in here. Yeah, you can see everything is kind of essentially relaxed a little bit. Before it was kind of, we were worried things were hanging out. Look at that. Everything is manageable. And what we're doing at this point is we're going to add our linguiça. So, as I said, instead of calabresa, which would be a traditional Brazilian sausage, this is a Portuguese smoked sausage, linguiça. It will be just as delicious. Simmer now for about 45 minutes. We are going to come back. We're going to add the okra. We're going to have one more kind of long cook, and then I promise it's going to be time to eat. I promise we will eat some food. All right, and let's check on our stew. Everything is coming together. It smells amazing. Big pot of meat. We're about to change that because we're going to add our okra. So the okra has actually been soaked in lime juice, which helps the texture of it a lot, but it'll still help thicken the stew up some. So we're going to stir in the okra now for the final phase of cooking. We're going to let it go about 35 more minutes on low. And then I'm going to show you how to finish everything up. All right, so the moment of truth here. Our okra has been cooking for about 35 minutes. I mean, you can see this beef chuck. I mean, look at that. It's just like falling apart. You remember how tough that was in the beginning? I mean, like even this, like the dried beef, same thing. It's so tender, so delicious, I can already tell. And the nice thing is actually adding the okra last. The okra retains a little bit of crunch, a little bit of texture, which is also nice next to just a big pot of meat. It's kind of similar to feijoada, but there's no beans in it, and there's probably less animal parts. I think feijoada is more likely to have like pig's feet and all that kind of thing in it. This is just a big old pot of beef and sausage. So what we're going to do to serve it. Now, I made a salsa. Very pretty. So this is 20 Thai chilies. This is because usually in Brazil they use malagueta chilies, and so Thai chilies were the closest thing I could find, but I think they'll be fine. You can tell those guys are little, but they're angry. You've got some fresh tomatoes, lime juice, olive oil, salt, onion. I guess it's a little bit like a pico de gallo kind of, but just a really angry one. This is mandioca flour, so it's cassava flour that I toasted a little bit. This is basically used as a garnish a lot. It'll thicken things up, give a little bit of flavor. So I've got I'm just using basmati rice because that's what I've got. Long grain. So let's get in here. I mean, look at this. This is like, that is a meat lover's, oh yeah. Come on now. And now I want it to be brothy. It's a stew. There's plenty of meat in there for anybody, you know. And now it's all about the broth, okay? So, I'm gonna add the toasted flour. Now we're gonna add our angry yet delicious salsa to this. Look at that. Get some nice lime juice in there. So, yeah, sure, that's really spicy, but at the same time, the contrast will temper it. So then I'm going to finish it with a squeeze of lime. If you spend 3 hours making something, or 4 hours, you kind of want it to be delicious. I'm not going to pick this up because it's going to go literally everywhere. I guess at first I just want to try the broth. The chilies burn. Thai chili's kind of hit you in the back of the mouth a little bit, I think. But the burn is like it's up front. It's a fresh chili. You know, it's not like you're not eating like Carolina Reaper or any crazy stuff like that. And when it's in the broth with the rice, with the meat, and it's got all that stuff to kind of temper it. You're just getting like the flavor. So now we got some okra and some beef on the spoon. It's funny. This stew, without this stuff, is half as good. It's amazing. It's like, this is great. There's a lot of smoked meat. It's a heavy broth. You know, it's cooked for a long time. It's complex. But the brightening that happens and then the little bit of thickening that happens with the toasted flour, that's what takes this like way over the edge. I mean, I want some sausage. I don't know about you. So, sausage is amazing. It adds smokiness. Every flavor in this makes sense. This is a great stew to make for a party. It's easy to make. I mean, this is literally like enough food for like 10 people here, 10 hungry people. And it's a great way to expose people to kind of a new cuisine that might not know a lot about. I mean, I'm kind of just getting into Brazilian cuisine myself. I mean, I've made this stew a few times, but I mean, there's a lot to learn. And there's a lot of great fish stews. I mean, great street food. I mean, it's like the culture. It's just vibrant. It's complex. It's absolutely delicious, and you can definitely get a lot of the African influence from the ingredients here. So, I'm Joe Riccio, and this is Food Coma, my 70s kitchen. If you like what you saw today and you want more videos like these, go to foodcomapodcast.com for the recipes, and check out our YouTube channel. It's Joe Riccio on YouTube, and please like and subscribe, and we will keep them coming.